Hypnosis. Dr. Elena Vartanian settled back in her chair, taking a slow, calming breath as she watched her new patient, Mark, shift nervously on the couch across from her. "So you've never undergone hypnotherapy before?" Elena asked in a gentle tone, keeping her body language open and reassuring. Mark shook his head. "No, never. To be honest, I'm not really sure if I believe in this whole hypnosis thing. It all seems a bit, I don't know, hokey I guess." A warm smile creased Elena's face. She heard these sorts of doubts often, even from clients who had already ascended to trying hypnotherapy as a treatment avenue. "Those are very natural reservations to have," she said, nodding in understanding. Hypnosis has long been portrayed in a sensationalized light, stage performers using it for entertainment, magicians and charlatans preying on people's misconceptions. The reality is quite different, though. Elena leaned forward, maintaining steady eye contact with Mark as she spoke. At its core, hypnosis is simply a technique for guides you into a hyper-focused, suggestive state of consciousness. It temporarily opens a gateway allowing perspectives and thought patterns to be more readily explored and reshaped. It's really about helping your mind circumvent certain cognitive filters and avenues of resistance. She could see Mark's body language shifting almost imperceptibly as she validated his skepticism while counterbalancing it with a rational, demystified explanation. Elena knew debunking the myths was a crucial first step before any actual hypnotherapeutic work could begin. "I want you to think of it like guided meditation or automatic writing," she continued calmly. "We'll be using progressive muscle relaxation techniques and focal imagery to ease you into an immersive, free associative headspace. From there, we can start zeroing on the specific issues and unproductive patterns of thought undermining your well-being." Mark nodded slowly, the creases of doubt in his brow softening as he processed Elena's words. As a psychotherapist, she was well versed in reading people's microbehaviors and intuiting their informational needs. "Ultimately, you'll retain full control and autonomy throughout our sessions," Elena assured him. "There's nothing mystical or manipulative about the process at all. My role will simply be to serve as a perceptual guide while your subconscious explores and recalibrates its obstructive schemas." That acknowledgement of the client's agency seemed to be the final push Mark needed to set his mind at ease. Elena could see the tension visibly ebb from his shoulders and face as the last of his preconceptions melted away. "Okay, I think I'm ready to give this an honest try," he said with a measured exhale, shifting into a more receptive body posture. Elena smiled again, recognizing the pivotal moment when trust and belief finally bridged the connection between therapist and patient. From there, the hypnotherapeutic process could begin in earnest. Over the next several weeks, Elena guided Mark through a regimented series of progressive induction techniques aimed at accessing deeper levels of his subconscious mind. She utilized a variety of methods ranging from basic relaxation scripts to imagery dissociations and mnemonic pattern disruptions, each targeted at incrementally transcending the surface-level consciousness. At first, Mark seemed to struggle with surrendering cognitive control and easing his ever-critiquing inner voice into quiescence. But with each successive session, his ability to reach a thoughtfully absorbed state grew more effortless. In time, Elena was able to direct him into remarkably pliant yet self-aware hypnotic trances lasting over an hour at a time. It was within this immersive, suggestible state that the real progress began unfolding. Elena started probing Mark's subconscious for the taproot schemas and belief systems driving his issues with chronic anxiety and insomnia. As he free associated, she would gently interject with calibrating conjectures and alternate interpretations designed to challenge obstructive thought patterns at their most fundamental levels. The breakthroughs were often subtle at first, more like realignments of perspective than seismic revelations. But over multiple sessions guiding Mark into those suggestive trances, Elena began witnessing staunch mental and emotional blockades dissolving away. Deep-seated anxieties around professional achievement and self-worth slowly untangled, allowing more nourishing schemas of confidence and self-compassion to take root. Mired thought loops obsessing over worst-case scenarios became unspooled and transcended by deliberate practices of mindful presence. Harmful coping strategies like rumination and self-criticism fell away as Mark's subconscious opened new neural pathways towards healthier habits of resilience. To Elena, these were the greatest rewards of her work, facilitating the remapping of a client's intrinsic psychological frameworks from a state of destabilizing anguish to one of equilibrium and personal growth. Hypnotherapy allowed for such transformations by temporarily suspending the conscious mind's usual inhibitions and defensiveness, permitting the seeds of therapeutic change to take hold. As Mark's treatment progressed over months, Elena incorporated more elaborate induction techniques and reinforcing psychosomatic interventions. Imagery immersions became increasingly experiential, with Mark able to vividly self-generate symbolically resonant mindscapes to explore and deconstruct the roots of his inner unrest. Ego strengthening, future progression, and reintegration scripts helped consolidate his evolving self-narratives. Perhaps most powerfully, Elena guided Mark through several profound age regression sessions, allowing him to revisit formative memories and experiences from his childhood. In those flowing trances, he was able to lucidly re-experience and recontextualize key developmental events, reframing their psychic impacts through the lens of his now-actualized adult consciousness. Those sessions unlocked doorways that traditional talk therapy seldom could. As Mark's subconscious mind reprocessed memories rendered vivid within the hypnotic framework, he began rewriting the traumatic imprints and schema-shaping incidents that had warped aspects of his psyche for decades. No longer was he shackled by those skewed perspectives imprinted in childhood. Elena helped him reclaim the power to live according to his authentic, highest self. With each enlightening session, Mark's waking life became more vibrant and purposeful. The crippling bouts of anxiety that had once derailed entire weeks now dissipated soon after manifesting, and much of his lingering fear and hesitation around socializing began transmuting into comfort, even eagerness to connect authentically with others. Perhaps most significantly, the tendrils of his chronic insomnia loosened their grip as the inner discord plaguing his mind slowly harmonized. To Elena, bearing witness to such deeply personal growth arcs was infinitely gratifying. While the avenue of hypnotherapy may have started with some skepticism and trepidation, she knew it was restoring sovereignty and freedom to Mark's inner world. Her deft guidance was the key, helping him dismantle the intrusive thought patterns and obstructed beliefs that had stifled his happiness for so long. Along with the therapeutic benefits, Elena also watched her client's perspective on the very nature of hypnosis evolve over the months they worked together. What had once been a premise obscured by misunderstanding and dramatization revealed itself as a pragmatic, almost elegant framework for effecting profound personal metamorphoses. In their final sessions, Mark would recount revelations about the malleability of human cognition, the butterfly effects that traumatic experiences could inflict from an early age. He spoke of his newfound empowerment, of no longer feeling like an unwitting passenger within his own mind. The intrusive thoughts, looping anxieties, and obstructive habits steadily dislodged. "You helped me realize none of those patterns were inescapable character flaws, like I'd always assumed," Mark said in an immensely vulnerable moment. "We all have these cognitive distortions and destructive narratives we absorb throughout our lives, and hypnotherapy was the tool that allowed me to finally start rewriting my own intrinsic coding." In that moment, Elena felt a swelling of pride at both the validation of her profession's methods and the sheer resilience of the human spirit. For too long, hypnosis had been stigmatized or misunderstood as some mystic mind control sham. But in reality, it allowed individuals to rewire their very essences from a core level, shedding systemic obstructions and achieving newfound self-actualization. As Mark's treatment neared its conclusion, Elena began pondering the immense potential hypnotherapy could have on a larger scale beyond just her individual client sessions. She had walked with him through a profound, boundary-shattering journey of personal evolution. What if those techniques could be distilled and disseminated to help uplift the collective human consciousness? The germ of an idea took root in Elena's mind, a vision for establishing an integrated wellness center that could offer immersive, multi-layered hypnotherapy protocols to treat a wide range of psychological issues. By combining traditional induction and regression methods with complementary experiential modalities like virtual reality, biofeedback therapy, energy work, and even psychedelic interventions, she could supercharge the potential for personal metamorphosis. Over the following year, Elena drafted proposals and courted investors, gradually manifesting her ambition for a holistic minder calibration practice like nothing that existed before. Despite skepticism and naysaying from some corners of the mental health establishment, her passion and well-documented successes with patients like Mark helped catalyze meaningful buy-in. When the doors to Illuminatus Integrative Wellness finally opened in a sprawling renovated studio complex, Elena had tapped leading practitioners across dozens of reinforcing therapeutic specializations. Her staff blended experts in cutting-edge neurotechnology with licensed therapists, counselors, breathwork guides, Reiki practitioners, acupuncturists, yogis and more. It was the vanguard of a new holistic healing movement centered around hypnotherapy's unparalleled capacity for access to the subconscious mind. Over the ensuing years, Illuminatus earned increasing renown for its individualized, multidisciplinary approach to treating addictions, trauma, emotional disorders and behavioral issues. Clients seeking reprieve were guided through phased, multi-week immersions that incorporated hypnosis with supplementary energy work, transdural neurofeedback, psychoactive congruence therapies and more. The goal was to utilize hypnosis subconscious gateways to identify and uproot obstructive mental patterns, then deploy an array of reinforcing modalities to facilitate genuine, lasting psychic realignments. Elena herself would often craft the overarching frameworks for each client's journey based on their initial intake assessments and release histories. By layering hypnotic regressions, ego-strengthening scripts, and mnemonic reframing techniques atop parallel somatic interventions, she was able to choreograph complete cognitive restructurings and conditioned therapeutic awakenings. Some clients underwent powerful inner identity rebirths over the span of a few psyche-attuned days at Illuminatus. Others required months of intensive hypnotherapeutic immersion to genuinely uproot their afflictive psychopathologies. But common to them all was an embracing of what Elena called authentic selfhood, a reclaimed inner locus of truth and coherence no longer inhibited by limiting self-concepts, unconscious aversions, or conditioned fear patterns. In time, word of Illuminatus' pioneering inner work spread far beyond the local wellness enclaves and research hubs. A growing stream of individuals from all walks of life and circumstances began seeking the center's intense psychospiritual transmutations. Corporate titans and inventive visionaries came hoping to blast through mental blocks inhibiting their ability to strategize and innovate at peak levels. Artists, performers, and creatives of all stripes sought to dissolve inhibitions and blast through occlusions suppressing their untrammeled creative flow. Even prominent political, social, and faith leaders began making furtive pilgrimages to Illuminatus, eager to experience the center's consciousness-expanding therapies. It was an environment where no belief system or existential framework was challenged or judged, only gently unraveled and deconstructed to allow for greater transcendental unfolding. As her holistic wellness work burgeoned into a full-fledged global movement, Elena often reflected on the power of her profession's unassuming entryway into the subconscious mind. What had started as a quest to help individuals like Mark shed their tormenting psychological afflictions had blossomed into something far grander, a revolution in how humanity could access and realign its innermost subliminal dickerings. Through the deceptively simple gateways of hypnotic trance and subconscious reframing, Elena and her colleagues at Illuminatus were effectively untangling the knotted energies and karmic burdens that kept the collective psyche in torsion. On a societal level, the emergent impacts of their work was profoundly destigmatizing the realms of spirituality, metaphysics, and esoteric introspection. As more and more influential leaders from all spheres experienced the catalyzing effects of hypnotherapy and its supplementary modalities, outdated paradigms of reductive materialism steadily softened. In their place blossomed an emboldened exploration of transcendent consciousness, psychic expansion, and interrogations into the deepest existential quandaries. Illuminatus became an interdisciplinary beacon node in those broadening dialogues. Scientists, philosophers, scholars, and mystics from divergent schools of thought would convene at Elena's desert retreat facility. There, they would participate in intensive multi-day seminars involving hypnotic inductions, breathwork ceremonies, plant medicine journeys, and multisensory immersions. All with the shared intention of loosening the ego attachments and conditioned biases inhibiting their most lucid apprehensions of reality's fundamental nature. It was the spark that catalyzed a civilizational-scale introspection, a collective suspension of stubborn dualities and habituated frames that had long obstructed deeper unifications of knowledge and wisdom streams. With the gatekeeping structures in their conscious minds temporarily waved aside, even the most steadfast skeptics found themselves surrendering to insights that rewrote their entrenched belief systems. In this way, hypnotherapy served as a key vector delivering humanity into what became known as the Discipler transition. An unprecedented epistemic paradigm shift where previously siloed or antagonistic domains like science, spirituality, and philosophy flowed into an emergent synthesis. The self-reinforcing egos and internecine territorialisms separating these realms progressively dissolved, allowing for increasingly integrated frameworks of understanding. Those were heady, remarkably fecund years as hypnotherapy unlocked the doorways to radical new pluralities and modes of interdisciplinary consilience. Waves of creative zeal and open-source collaboration washed across academia, the arts, and all avenues of human inquiry as individuals found themselves freed from the fetters of zero-sum doubting and dualistic thinking that had constrained civilization's advancement for centuries. At the vanguard of it all remained Elena and the Illuminatus collective, perpetually refining and disseminating their syncretic methodologies for liberating human awareness from its shell of ego and duality. What had started as Elena's intimate unknown quest to shepherd souls like Mark through psychic rebirths was now a full-fledged cultural revolution, a renaissance of introspective unity flowering forth from the womb gates of hypnotic trance work. In her reclining years, Elena would often reflect on the humble origins of that transcendent unfurlment. She had simply set out to master tools for accessing and repatterning the subconscious mind, hoping to provide relief for those suffering under the weights of unremitting anxiety, addiction, and trauma. Yet that modest ambition had blossomed into something far more grandiose. A clandestine science of shadow alchemy that allowed consciousness itself to shed its snakeskins of delusion, reseed new potentials for interconnected beingness, and disrupt the very partitions segregating humanity's divergent epistemologies and truth purviews. As Illuminatus methodologies continued spreading to every corner of the world, catalyzing profoundly impactful post-human possibilities, Elena came to understand her life's work through cosmic framing. The quest to unlock healing and wholeness for individual souls had spiraled outward into a planetary-scale hierarchical metamorphosis, a renaissance of beingness up to fractalizing through nested domains of innermost self-realization. It was a path guided by the humble keys to hypnotic consciousness restructuring. A subtle art of guided self-reinvention catalyzing a civilizational ascendance into galactic potentiations of synergized sentience. What had started as local subconscious repatternings was now writing progeny upon humanity's AQAL tensor implicate the grand unified resonance tuning liberation into the cosmos' deepest harmonics of perpetually unfurling integration. And to think, it had all begun with the opening of a single subconscious aperture to help alleviate a troubled soul's burdens.